There are many properties in mathematics, but probably the two most important ones in algebra are the properties of equality, and there's four of them, and the distributive property. The properties of equality, I'm just going to group all of them because one of them is a property of addition, property of equality subtraction, property of equality for multiplication, and property of equality for division. But if you just group them all together, properties of equality, you'll see why we can do that. Basically, the property of equality says whatever I do to one side of an equation, I have to do to the other side of the equation. So let's just take a simple equation. X is equal to 3. Now, if I add 2 to the left side, so x plus 2, it's the same as 3 plus 2. So we know that now x plus 2 is equal to 5, which makes sense, because if x is equal to 3, then x plus 2, which would be 3 plus 2, is equal to 5. Now let's do it multiplying. If I say x is equal to 3, then 4 times x is the same as 4 times 3. So 4x is equal to 12. So that's basically how, and division and subtraction are both work the same way. And that's basically how a property of equality works. But the way for solving an equation using properties of equality, you're probably going to be doing these in reverse. And I'll show you what I mean in just a minute. Say you're given the equation 3x plus 2 is equal to 14, and you're told to solve for x, which means you want to get x over here all by itself. So you need to get rid of that 2, and you need to get rid of that 3. Well, the easiest thing first is get rid of the 2. So we're going to subtract 2 from the left side using the subtraction property of equality. So if I subtract 2 from the left, I have to subtract 2 from the right. And 2 minus 2 is 0, so those cancel out. And I'm left with 3x on the left, and 14 minus 2 is 12. So now I'm left with this. But I still have a 3 in front of the x, and that's a multiplier. It's called a coefficient, and I want to get rid of that 3. So how would I do that? I can't subtract the 3 because it's a multiplier, so I have to divide by 3. If I divide the left side by 3, I have to divide the right side by 3. And we know that 3 divided by 3 is 1, so I'm left with 1x is equal to 12 divided by 3 is 4. And you'll see that anytime you have a coefficient of 1, you don't have to write it. You can just say x is equal to 4. But nothing, if I say x, y, z, or any other variable, it implies there's a 1 in front of it. If there's nothing here, it implies there's a 1 right there. Okay, those circles I drew weren't zeros. They were just circles to show that there's no number there, but it really means there's a 1 there. Okay, you don't have to write the 1 in front of a coefficient. You can, mathematically it's correct, but you don't have to. You can just leave it as a plain letter. But always remember that a variable with nothing in front of it implies that that coefficient, the multiplier, is 1. Okay, now let's look at the case where you have variables on both sides and numbers on both sides. Remember, you can't combine the variable terms with the number terms because they are not like terms. You can only combine x's with x's and x squareds with x squareds and single numbers or numbers with numbers. So, in this case, you think, how are we going to solve this one? Well, the whole idea is get the variables on one side and the numbers on the other side, and then get the variable down to 1x. So let's try that first. So since this 2x is smaller, we're going to subtract 2x from both sides. And these will cancel. 2x minus 2x is 0, so those go away. 5x minus 2x is 3x. But you still have that 6 there, so 3x plus 6. And you still have that minus 3 over there is equal to minus 3. Now, we want to get rid of this 6 because we want to get all the numbers to the right side. So we subtract 6 and subtract 6 over here. So 6 minus 6, 0, so that goes away. Minus 3, minus 6 more is minus 9. I'm left with 3x over here on the left side. So now I've got 3x equals negative 9. So we're almost there, but I still have a 3 in front of the x, and I want to get the x by itself. So if I divide both sides by 3, these will go away and give me 1. 3 divided by 3 is 1. So I end up with 1x, or just plain old x, and negative 9 divided by 3 is negative 3. So x is equal to negative 3. And if you want to check your work, you can plug it back in. So 5 times negative 3 plus 6 is equal to 2 times negative 3 minus 3. So I just took this original equation and plugged in negative 3 for x right here and over here. So 5 times negative 3 is negative 15 plus 6 is equal to negative 6 right there. So negative 15 plus 6 is negative 9. And negative 6 minus 3 is negative 9. So negative 9 is equal to negative 9. So that works with x equals negative 3. And that's how you do an equation to solve for a variable, or solve an equation with variables on both sides.